All right, Larry, welcome back. Well, I say welcome to the first time because we didn't quite kick this off the way we wanted to with week one, but this is going to be um, this is technically week one. We're considering last week week zero, but this is our Astros weekly recap. I'm Clint the Scout. This is Larry the GM, and we're here tonight to talk obviously Astros baseball and everything that's kind of come come to fruition with the team this week, and talk about some observations and get in a little in depth in some analysis of some data points Larry's called out, and see what we can do to help folks understand and put it into perspective. So, Larry, how are you doing?
I'm good, and thanks, Clint. This will be, folks. This is just so everybody understands. This is Clint and my. Um, it'll integrate with the LarryTheGM website, and Clint will integrate with some of his social media and some of the website work he's been doing. It'll be available on the YouTube channels. So for me, that's the Larry the Gym YouTube site. So let me go ahead, Clint, and just like do a bunch of advertisements and let's get them out of the way. So if you're watching this video, please, number one, like the video, whether you're watching it on my Larry the GM YouTube channel or if you're watching it on Clint's YouTube channel, like the video, subscribe to our channels. If you are have ever come to the Larry the GM website for data, please join the Larry the GM website and become a premium member or moneymaker member. Moneymakers get daily action, betting action, and you can it if you so choose to make those bets, you might be doing pretty good so far this year. Today was a rough day for the old Larry GM picks, but that's okay. It was a rough day. It was a rougher day for the Astros than it was for the Larry GM picks. I'll say that. Um, so what I would say also, folks, is this will give us a little grace with the kick off the show. If you join us, Clint, it looks like we got a few people watching us. So please, if you're watching the show, please jump on in and give us a comment or two so we know you're there. We have some really interesting content for folks today. In fact, we've got like stuff I've literally been working on this evening, and I think it's going to be like what for several folks. So um, hopefully it'll be interesting. All right, so Clint, that's kind of my rambling intro to add to what you had. So Clint, why don't you lay out for folks what the topics we're going to have, the name of the show is, and what are the topics we're going to cover.
All right. So, um, as we kind of touched on it before, this is going to be our Astros weekly recap. We're going to walk through some things. We've got four, I guess you'll say 4.5 topics, because two of the topics kind of bleed into one another. So I'm going to go 4.5 here. Um, I guess to summarize it, the first topic that we're going to get into is Houston really clutch city? And so there's some data back points here that we're and facts that we're going to point out about what we mean by um, whether they are clutch or not, and what that kind of alludes to. Second topic we're going to get to is where we're going to go with Jose Abreu. We're going to talk about him, what we're seeing, how that looks, and kind of what the data is giving us. And then the third topic will be we're going to try and bring to some perspective and really help folks understand the Spencer Arrighetti call up. And then also that half topic that we're going to talk about with him is he here to stay? Is this going to be a permanent thing, or what can we expect? And that's going to also lead into our final topic of the night, and that's going to be how we're going to navigate this pitching conundrum. Because if we learned anything from today, it definitely feels like this pitching staff is worse for the wear, and it may not be getting any better anytime soon, or it might. So we're gonna walk through it. Uh, get y'all's feedback as well. Answer any questions that you have about any of the topics, and you can start dropping them in now, and maybe we'll answer them in the middle, or maybe it'll come up and we'll have even more to talk about. But with that being said, I guess Larry, let's just hit that big nail on the head. That first one that we
All
came up
right,
with,
let's
big cliffhanger, is Houston really clutch city?
yeah. So let me. I mean, so guys, what I'm going to do. for you right now is give you give you this is essentially going to be like Larry the GM sausage making here. All right. I don't. All right. This one.
Whoa,
All right.
whoa, too much. That, save it for later, Larry.
Okay. Are we there?
Yeah,
All right.
I see these charts. I recognize all this. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's some interesting charts. So one of the things, and I guess I could pull. We could take people through the numbers first. So one of the things that's been bothering me is Houston is a tremendously different team when they're batting overall, when the bases are empty, and when there's runners on. And it's not just the players you might think of. And we'll get to the player portion of this first or last. So from an ex Woba standpoint, and you guys know I love my ex Woba. Um, this is the data for the Astros. The Astros have an XWOB of 341 overall. Now, if I asked you guys before you listen to this video podcast, you might say the Astros offense is terrible. And I would say, well, I know why you say that, but it actually is probably not as bad as you think. All right.
So what I want to let everybody know, X Woba is obviously one of the favorites here on the site, and it's definitely got a lot of it gives you a lot of insight on expected performance at the plate. But I also just want to make a plug there as well. I'm sure a lot of folks who invested in the Moneymaker content probably love X Woba too, because I'm sure there's a little bit of benefit they get out of Larry diving in and doing
we,
this regularly. So definitely get that little plug in there real quick.
Yeah, we do a lot of interesting stuff with XWOBA stats. One of the reasons we use WOBA and XWOBA in these stats is you can cross reference them. The pitcher has a WOBA and XWOBA, and the batter has a WOBA XWOBA. So here is the Astros pitch data, and one of the things I'm going to give you guys a bunch of numbers, but then I'm going to tell you you can ignore about 80% of them, right? But what I want you guys to see is this is the pitching side, and this was in an earlier version of the article. It'll be in content that I add to this video, guys. But 2023 pitching, 2024 pitching, and you'll see that these are the different types of pitches. Notice how much more off-speed pitches the Astros have thrown this year, and we're enough into the season that that's not just an accident, right? And so you'll notice that the ex-WOBA data for the 2024 staff is significantly better. Where is it? Actually, I need to be up here. I knew that was the data I had previously. The fastball data is normalized a little bit. The breaking pitches, they're getting hit better than the breaking pitches are getting hit harder than they did the year before. But again, you see a significant jump in the off-speed pitches,
So Larry,
very effective as they were the year before.
so
Go
one
ahead,
thing
Clint.
I just want to know, not to cut you off, but like on that expected WOBA of our speed pitches, that possible differential between 2023 and 2024 could just be, I would say, could be just attributed to the volume and obviously the amount of off speed that's being thrown compared to last year. Would that be a fair assumption, or?
Well, what's interesting is the off-speed pitches. It's basically the same quality of pitch. It was just like double of them. Like they've thrown
Yeah.
twice as many off-speed pitches for basically a very now, guys. One thing you'll learn when you spend time with me with Lex over there. 319, 320. Just remember that's about league average. Okay, so 270 for a pitching crew is great. Okay, and so they've been using the off-speed pitch as effectively as effective as last year at almost double the rate that they have. That's reduced the number of fastballs. You can see the number of fastballs are down, the number of breaking pitches are down. the breaking pitches that they've thrown have been hit harder. The fastballs have been, again, these statistical differences are not existent this far into the season. All right, so basically, fastballs about as effective as they were last year. Off-speed pitches about as effective as they were last year, and breaking pitches a little less effective, but there's less of them. So when you total all that up, now this is the actual WOBA data. This is what you've seen, that the pitching is getting hit harder than it was last year. The ex-WOBA data says, based on the quality of contact from the pitching, the pitching has actually been better than last year. Now that's a completely shocking, you know, you guys won't believe me. What's even more interesting is I have models based on XWOBA data to actual run predictions. That's what this column is. So based on the total XWOBA data, the Astros should have been giving up 4.7 run. They gave up should have given up 4.7 runs per game last year. They actually gave up 4.3. This year they should be giving up a little bit less. They've actually given up 5.3. So that's a problem. What's really a problem is we're not we're we're not getting the results from our pitching that we fairly should be getting based on the actual results. Well, part of the problem is it's 14 games into the season, right? This is one of the common threads we're going to hit through as we go through this. But you know, they should be getting better results than they're getting. Now, this is the league average, so you can just compare what league average is. Now we go to the hitting side, all right? The hitting side, you see that basically the pitch distribution has been very similar with a few less off-speed pitches. The batting has actually hit the fastballs better than it did last year for the whole season. Basically the same as breaking pitches, and the batting has been far worse versus off-speed pitches. We have a 263 xWOBA versus off-speed pitches, but we've had about 10% less of them. So overall, the actual WOBA data says we're basically the same team as we were last year hitting the ball. I don't think I believe that when I watch the games, but you got to remember we've had some 8-run games, we've had some 10-run, it had a 10-run game, we've had some good hitting games, and we've had some marginal hitting games, right? What the xWOBA data says is we're actually better than we were last year hitting. Now, I don't think anybody in this fan base believes that, but that I would caution people, like, how many times have we seen Kyle Tucker start off the season really, really slow in the first month of the season or first 2 weeks, and everybody's saying, "Oh, Kyle Tucker's broken," and then by the end of the season, he's great. He's Kyle Tucker again. Well, the xWOBA data told us that there was no problem. Kyle Tucker is who Kyle Tucker is, and so he's at a 341. So, Clint, does that make sense? Are you seeing the data I'm showing you?
Yes, I see it. I follow it,
Okay.
and really
All right.
the big summary for everybody is just the xWOBA data from an offensive perspective is better than what the results have been, and pitching
Well,
has
yeah.
actually been worse than kind of what it is. You know, in that perspective. So bringing it all together is probably going to be pretty even. But
Yeah, so we're going to
yeah,
get to the next part of that. We'll get to the clutch part of it in just
yeah.
a second. So the problem is, so the pitching has not gotten the results that they should have gotten. Now, see this gap here on the hitting, right? So I just told you the offense should be better. The offense scored 5.11 runs per game last year. That's what they should have done, right? The WOBA data matched up with the actual runs produced last year, right on the dot. They should be scoring 5.4. They're actually only scoring 3.9 runs per game. There's a run and a half that's gone. There's a run and a half that we're not getting that we should be getting. And Clint, the question should be why? Why aren't we getting that run and a half? Right? Does anybody on the chat want to describe to me why we're not getting that run and a half? It's down here.
So
Down here,
one
brother.
of Brandon brought up a question real quick before we move into that. He says, "What does quality
Okay.
of pitchers pitches, for example, Fromber's curveball versus Brown slider, have on the overall ex-Wobo results? Do Brown's
So,
inferior breaking pitches have a bad impact on the overall team numbers?"
well, what the X-Woba is taking into account, Brandon, is the quality of contact that happens as that the ball, as that pitched ball hits that bat, right? So if we think that Hunter Brown has a really bad quality of pitch, then that should be reflected in his balls are getting hit hard. And I think one of the frustrating things is I watched today's game, and I don't have all this ready to show anybody, is that Hunter Brown just gave up hit after hit after hit, but a lot of them weren't that hardly. They weren't hit that hard, right? And so his ex Woba data from today probably isn't even going to, it won't reflect the carnage that happened in that first inning, because it shouldn't have been as bad as it was. So this 1.5 run gap, I wanted to start there because that 1.5 run gap has to do with when this team is is producing those statistical results. So let me back up just real fast. Well, I guess it'll be right here. So the overall WOBA of the team 341. When the when the bases are empty, that X WOBA is 358. When there's runners on, it's 321. When there's runners in scoring position, it's 275. The X WOBA for this team, when there's runners in scoring position, is nearly, well, it's 66 points lower than overall. It's 80 points lower, 83 points lower than when the bases are empty. Guys, there's no reason for the ex-WOBA data to have that gap. Ex-WOBA data should be a reflection of the true talent of those players, right? If the WOBA data had that gap, I would just say, well, tell me what the ex-WOBA say, because the ex-WOBA should. So what that's telling us is this team is not getting the same contact that they get in every other one of those situations where it gets progressively worse the more the runners are on base. And I told Clint, like, Clint, this data tells me we need to get some sports psychologists in here, right? Something they're doing something different with runners on and runners in scoring position than they fundamentally are doing when the bases are empty. It
Yeah,
doesn't
and my
make sense.
and my argument as well is like, what's the philosophy when they get into those
Right.
situations? Because then it's like, well, does the count have anything to do with it? We didn't find that it was a really, I guess it was a large enough. It wasn't quantified, it wasn't a quantity that would really dictate that that change is. But it's like, what's the philosophy? Is it more or less skewed due to the approach in general that's being taught and what's being brought up to the plate by these guys? And I think that's just a huge, obviously that's a big question, and then obviously the psychological perspective is huge as well. And so, you can see those charts on the right as far as where those numbers kind of go and compared to what the league average is, right, Larry? The orange
Yeah.
line is going
So
to
yeah,
be,
yeah,
yeah,
let me make that point too, Clint. Well, we're going to get to the other charts, but let's look at this ex Woba data, right? So a normal MLB team is the orange line here, right? And you can see in the data here for the MLB, they actually get better when runners are scoring position. And that's generally what happens, right? Because the pitcher's pitching out of the stretch, right? And it should be advantage to the offense. The pitchers should be stressed out and pressing to throw the right pitch and all that. And because that's what's happening. These are 2024 statistics, right? So around the league, that that offense, it gets better from when the runners are empty. The other thing to say, the Astros are the best hitting ex-Woba team when there's nobody on base. Guys, this 358 is the best in all of the major leagues. The Astros are the 29th team hitting with runners in scoring position. The same team is the best when the bases are empty and nearly the worst when the bases have runners in scoring position. Now, there is no explanation, guys. Either you have to believe it's a statistical anomaly, or you have to believe that there's something radically wrong with the players. They're pressing. They're incapable of hitting the same way when there's runners in scoring position. And Brandon, we'll get to the player by player breakdown in a minute. That I think will address some of what you're asking. So I looked at exit velocities too. And so that's actually this data, and it's not labeled correctly, but there's the exit velocities. And you can see by the exit velocity data, again, this team, now exit velocity data, let me do this real quick, guys. I want you to be able to really see this. So this is 87. And this is going to be 91. I want you to be able to see the difference. All right. You guys are in the LarryTheGM sausage factory right now. That's all right. So this chart, look at this, guys, and you're like, Larry, well, of course you blew it up, but there's no reason like these exit velocity data should be fairly stable for the same batters, right? Clint, there's no real reason
Yeah,
the guy should
it,
be hitting 2.5 miles per hour less when there's runners in scoring position than they're hitting with the bases empty.
yeah, that, and we shouldn't discount how big of a variance that is, overall.
That's
Like, I know
huge.
it does, you blow it up in a chart and it looks significant because it is significant. It's a difference
That's
between a
right.
lot of
There's a
hits,
reason I put
difference
that
between a lot
scale
of
on that
results.
chart, right?
Yeah.
That's a massive difference in exit velocity. Three, 2.5, 3 mile per hour exit velocity difference across an entire team. 14, or I guess that data is probably from 13 games of the season. That's a massive difference, guys. I hope this is the sort of stuff that the Astros are asking themselves. Why is this happening, right? Because it's so, this is the Babbitt data, and the Babbitt data is kind of bouncing around. But it's worse with runners in scoring position too. Here's so I didn't plot the WOBA, but I did plot the WRC plus, because the WRC plus data is really easy to to under to when you understand what a WRC plus is. You can think of it as an overall offensive quality metric. Okay, let's just leave it as that simple description. Where 100 is league average. This team overall is 118, and that is, I believe, the fourth. Probably that's close to right. This team is 118 WRC plus overall, with runners when the bases are empty. This team's a 119. Oh, that's the same thing. When there's runners on, it's a 117. That's the same thing. Those three numbers are statistically the same. At this point in the season, there's nobody that would try to argue that the 117 WRC plus that they are with runners on versus the overall versus the empty, those are different. The runners in scoring position the running scoring position WRC plus is 83. So that's the difference, just to kind of get you in the mindset. That's basically the difference between Kyle Tucker batting every time at the plate and Jose Abreu batting every time at the plate. That's marginally close to what those numbers would have been last year. So, and again, for the MLB, that data goes up. It goes up 10 points, not down 35. It's so when Clint asks, are the Astros clutch? I had a little more negative. The way I was, my title for that
Well,
section, this section was, "Are the Astros choking?" Right? Because I don't. What I need to. This is data like literally fresh off the press, guys. And I know there's a lot. The reason I wanted to lead with this is what's wrong with the Astros. Literally, what's wrong with the Astros is this. And I know a lot of people in the fan base say, well, Larry, I knew that. I knew they weren't getting hits with runners in scoring position. But the fact that the ex-WOBA data is that those are huge differences in the ex-WOBA data. That's huge differences in the exit velocities. That means there's something wrong, like Clint said, in the approach that they're taking in those situations. Clint, do you want to say
I
anything
would
else to
even
that before going?
I would even add and to Brandon's point about construction of lineup and stuff like that. I think it starts to raise the question of looking at these guys individually and like how do you put this thing together where you really put the guys in the position with runners and who's up with runners in scoring position. But Larry, I've alluded to this since last year. And I've told folks this when we talk about the Astros at work or anywhere else. This has been a very feast or famine offense for, I would say, since 2022.
Yeah, I used to
They
kind
get
of joke
hot,
about
they're
it.
streaky,
Yeah, I mean, I
and
joked about
and
it
I
back as far as 2017, right? That
yeah,
they would get rolling,
and
and
and then my other point with that, Larry, is just where what is the real philosophy that these guys are taking up to the plate? I mean, we see big swings all the time early, and I'm used to that. I mean, that's pretty common, but are we really getting a change when when you're down 0 and 2, when you got an even count 3 and 2, sometimes you're caught off guard, not swinging at all. What is it that the Astros hitters are really taking to the plate with them from a mindset and a preparation and philosophy perspective on how to address this? And I think that's going to just lead into this next chart that we're looking at, right,
yeah,
Larry?
yeah. So now we're going to go by player. And so Brandon, what I would say is like, hey, wait a minute now. Yeah, they're under offensive stress, but they seem to have no problem at any point in this game, even the games they're behind, of getting runners on. That's what happened today. They got runners on all the time. They have like 11 hits today. Something, they got the runners on, and we ended the innings over and over and over and over with two runners on, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. So now, before everyone wants to just say it's Jose Abreu, it's Jose Abreu, it's Jose Abreu. Okay, Jose Abreu sneaks at both of these categories, right? Jose Abreu has a WOBA overall, ex WOBA of 145, 149 overall, and he's got a 110 with runners in scoring position. That's a difference of 39 points. That's not the big that wouldn't that's not the problem. Well, that is a problem. It's a problem that's that low overall bites, but it's not the clutch problem that we're talking about. Let's go down to my favorite Astro of this generation for sure. Jose Jose Altuve. 377 overall, 202 runners in scoring position. Now, the reason I put the plate appearances here is I think this is some of the story, right? I do not believe Jose Abreu is going to. I mean, Jose Altuve is going to hit 202 ex Woba for the entire season with runners in scoring position, and you shouldn't either. I would probably go back to his career, and there's never been a year that he's hit that low with runners in scoring position. I can go check that. Notice the third player on this list. Jordan Alvarez is great in both situations, and not. I mean, it's worse with runners in scoring, but it makes no sense. Other than you may say, well, they may allowed to pitch to him when there's bases empty, and then they try to pitch around him when there's runners in scoring position. So he gets walks instead of home runs. Bregman's down. Caratini's down quite a bit. Yonder Diaz is down a lot. Uh, Mauricio Dubon up a little. I mean, these numbers that are, any number on here that's less than positive or negative 0.04, I don't know that they're really statistically significant. Chas McCormick is the only player that has been significantly better with runners in scoring position this season than when he's there than he is overall. Of all the players, let me repeat that. All the Astros players, only Chas McCormick has been better with runners in scoring position than the overall. And this is in the league that bats, whatever it was, 50 points higher ex-Woba stats. It's mind-boggling, guys. The players that are terrible on this list: Jose Altuve, huge gap; Yonder Diaz, huge gap; Jake Myers, huge gap; Jeremy Pena, huge gap; Victor Caratini, big gap; even Jordan Alvarez, pretty big gap; Bregman, pretty big gap. It's all through. It's every single one of them, guys. And all I can tell you is it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It'll get better. A month from now, I can Clint, you can mark it down. Larry, bring the same exact chart back to us a month from now, and show us how it's gotten better, because it's just unsustainable. The problem is we're talking about ex WOBA data. Like, if this was WOBA data, I would just blow it off. This is ex WOBA data, which means there's something wrong with the approach, and they got to fix the approach. And the fact that there's only one player that is better with runners in scoring position, I, I don't know what to say, guys, but this sounds like a coaching kind of philosophy issue, right? We're doing something philosophically wrong with runners in scoring position. That's if the data holds, that's what I would say. I'm going to choose to believe right now it's just a statistical anomaly. Does that make sense, Clint?
It does. I would just say to add on to that from more of an I guess from the vision perspective, not looking at the data, but what you see on the field. One of the things that makes Chaz unique is I've always seen Chaz as somebody who really looks to try and drive the ball the other way a lot more than these other guys do.
Yeah.
And that might allude to why his approach and his ability to get hits with runners in scoring position is better, is that the field is not closed off and we're not looking to pull the ball all the time. That could be one thing. But overall, it's just mindset, approach. Do they get less aggressive as the count gets deeper? And then they get in those situations where you've got runners on second and third with two outs. We've seen that happen, or runners in first, second with two outs. And we're watching them not be as aggressive with with their swings in the strike zone, or maybe too aggressive outside of the strike zone. They're aggressive early in counts when there's nobody on, as compared to I'm going to be more conservative with runners on. I think we just have a really big question that the entire team needs to ask. The front office needs to ask, what are we doing wrong, and what is the rest of the league doing right? Because
Right.
that's what that data is showing right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's saying that the rest of the league gets better and we're getting significantly worse. So why? And you know, and this may shock this fan base, but this is something I would think that Dusty Baker would have been able to help this team with. This is, and just to be completely fair to him, I think Dusty might have just said, dude, chill out. He would have ramped down the self-inflicted pressure that they're putting on themselves, or what I'm saying is, like, you're great, you can do it, I can
And
I can
credit where
hear
credit's due
Dusty
to
saying this
Dusty, and
thing.
his mentality standpoint really made it could be what, a really big determining factor in why this is so different. But this is also a challenge I think Joe Espada has to take head on from a first year manager,
Right.
and stuff like that, and really address it. And I don't want to believe for a fact that Dana Brown and them do not know that this is what's happening. I think that alludes to the comments he's made about, oh, this team is getting ready to win in
Right.
in streaky fashion, because they are probably anticipating some of the things that we see to not continue. And um, Larry's data is pretty spot on with what we're seeing, and how we're going to see that all kind of play out. So um, it's just kind of an important part of it is just patience, and a lot of folks don't have patience when your expectations are as high as this Astros fans base is.
Yeah. So what I can do is I can go get the same data for 2023 and see how
Yeah.
is this a systemic Astros issue? I don't, yeah, I don't have that data right. I was wondering if it was embedded in the other data I had above. All right, can we turn to the
I think we should,
topic?
Larry. Yes.
Why don't you start? So you tell us what your thoughts on Jose Abreu are.
Okay. Um, I think I said it the first game of the season, and I'm pretty sure I tooted that horn a lot last year as well. Jose Abreu and velocity pitches, they don't get along, and he has just notoriously gotten worse at them since he joined the Astros. Um, I I don't really want to call him. I go back and forth. I don't know if he's washed or not. I don't know what it is. But then I've watched him play first defensively, and some of those mistakes are not as those aren't the mistakes we're used to seeing out of veteran first baseman. I
Right.
mean, you can look back at some of the guys, and a lot of people love to compare it to Yuli, but Yuli was a pretty good glove at first base. I know it wasn't spectacular, but he played first base well for somebody who was never a first baseman to begin with. And so to see someone with the pedigree that Abreu has struggle in that sense, but also offensively just look so lost. It's not so much physically. I don't want to believe he can't hit all speed pitches, but I just feel like is the spirit broken? Is it just a
Yeah.
lack of belief now? Um and then, I know that there's a lot of data that's going to go into that, and Larry, I know you can talk on that even more so, but that I know it's early, but Abreu, I think this is a really huge cause for concern for them.
Yeah, so I'm gonna cover a couple things that may be interesting to you, because I guess my fundamental message, and this data is going to be 2 days old right now, and my commitment to this fan base is that just I know it got annoying, but when I kept covering the same issue over and over and over again last year, because it was broke, it was something that was really broken that was hurting the team, and that was Molinado. I will continue to cover. I mean, I did the same thing with Jose Abreu last year. I covered it multiple times, and when it started getting better, I was one of the first people to say, like, look, I think he's getting better, guys. He's getting better. And I'll talk about the signs that we saw last year. But okay, I just wanted to double back because I think there's a lot of like revisionist history. Like I wasn't too hot on the whole Abreu. I mean, this is an excerpt from basically my instant analysis of the Abreu signing, which frankly was I got tired of being negative, so it was actually pretty positive. But I did say my concern is how this is going to hold up, right? And with his production hold up into his age 36, 37, and 38 years. And my prediction is that 36 is going to be the best that we're going to get from Jose Abreu, and that should be a really. I mean, I think that's more of a scary statement to most of his fan base than it is to me because I know really where Jose Abreu by the end of the year actually ended up. I want to talk about that. So Jose Abreu, before May 28th last year, was an absolutely atrocious baseball player. Okay, his his ex Woba was 268 and his Woba was 235. His OPS was 518. It was terrible. It was just terrible. His exit velocity, and notice these exit velocity numbers. We made a big deal out of 2.5 mile per hour. His exit velocity before May 28th was 87. That's the same number we talked about with the runners and scoring page, 87, right? His exit velocity after May 28th was 90. His statistics after May 28th were better than an average hitter in the major leagues. Um, Average OPS was 735 or something like that. Don't I may be off by a couple points. His WOBA was 329. His XO was 340. Those are all above. Look what happened. He was only barreling 2.4% of the balls before. You guys are going to want to remember some of these numbers. He was only barreling 2.4% of pitches before, and he was barreling 8.1 after. He's only hard hitting 36% of the pitches before, and he was hard hitting 44. Right? Remember a couple of those numbers. Okay. Now we're going to come down here, and these are the numbers, different time frame. Like these are the numbers that are going to be through through the first whatever number of games that was of April 8th. Okay, so a few days ago. You see where we were at the same number of games, same point number of pitches that he had seen. You see that actually last year, very, very early, Jose Abreu was relatively okay, but that was a lot of that was masked by this massive BABIP. And then the BABIP went away, and we got everything we had until May 28th. Okay, I told you to remember some of these numbers. Xwoba before May 28th, 268. Xwoba right now, 174. Guys, this is an unsustainable Xwoba, right? And I know the people are like, well, Larry, we've been saying you should be dumped or whatever. We're going to get to that. That's part 2 of this topic, right? The question is like, he turned it around significantly last year? Can he turn it around the same way this year? Right? Well, his BABIP is 105. There's no way Jose Abreu is going to have a BABIP of 105 at the end of this year. It's just not. It's not going to happen. It's going to be at least 250, 260, 270. But his exit velocity, guys, is 85.6. Clint, 85.6 is like Dubon on like slap hitter days, right? I mean, that's
Yeah, 85 is attainable by. I mean, you can see that at lower levels
a
of
double
high
put a
school
double
or
A player in the
yeah,
major league. You probably get
yeah,
85,
really
right?
good high school players, lower end, and so one of the other things I just wanted to just mention is, I it's unsustainable, yes, and part of me has been looking at it from a technical standpoint, and so I want to get to that in a minute, Larry, when you're done looking at the data. Just it's just kind of interesting what I guess we're both in the same court. It can't be this bad for this long. Like it eventually has to break. The levee breaks at some point, and I guess we're gonna find out if it's gonna break before or after something happens with him. I don't know. But
Well,
I just
it can't be this bad and stay in the lineup, right? It can't be this bad. He can't have a hard hit rate of 21. Guys, I told you that his before May 28th hard hit rate of 36. It's 21 now. He hasn't he as of April 8th he hadn't barreled a single pitch, right? His launch angle is 20.8. Guys, he's skying. You're going to see that in this data. He's skying some of the pitches. It's like it's all over the place. All right, so this is the data through the same part of the season and 4-7. I'm not gonna I don't want to overwhelm you with it, but just remember, just follow the sense here. Abreu was struggling early versus sliders, curveballs, and changeups, but he was hitting four-seam fastball, sinkers, and cutters. Why do I say that? Well, you just go through the Xwoba data. He was hitting four-seam fastballs, sinkers, and cutters, all fastball type pitches. So Clint, the data, and this was true all the way to May, even when Jose Abreu was bad early last year, he was hitting the fastball. He could not hit a single off-speed pitch or breaking pitch to save his life through the first 2 months of last season. And that's what happened last year, okay? This is how he ended the year. He got better versus sliders and changeups. He struggled all year long versus curveballs. I don't know why a single team would ever throw Jose Abreu another pitch. Prove to me that you can hit a curveball, Jose Abreu, or retire, because that's how bad it was. Curveballs last year, 186 ex Wobo for the entire season. He had 145 curveballs. I don't know why that wasn't like 4 times that, because he never hit curveballs worth a darn last year. Here's the data this year, and here's the worrisome part this year. I told you the things that he did well in 23. He's not even doing that, guys. He's not doing that anymore. He's terrible versus forcing fastballs. Again, this data is a few days old, but we're talking 55 pitches. 55 pitches is enough for me to use in some of my moneymaker tables that I look at. The rest of this data really, we're getting to some really small sample sizes, but the only thing you can argue that he's doing well is hitting cutters, and maybe he's getting to slurs, but that's only 6 pitches, right? So, and the WOBA data says those aren't even good, right? And so, guys, the really worrisome thing in here is these exit velocities. His exit velocity versus sliders, 71. His exit velocity versus cutters, 79. His exit velocity sinkers, 82. These are, you know, sinkers and cutters are some of his best pitches. The launch angle on sinkers is a negative 18. He's slamming them into the ground. That's not going to lead to many hits. His launch angle on sliders is 58. He's getting under them, and they're just going straight up, and they're not even probably even getting out of the infield. His launch angle on changeups. Now, changeups and sliders were two of the things he couldn't hit worth a darn last year, and
Yeah.
curveballs. Like, guys, this data is scary as hell related to Jose Abreu. And I should have brought. I mean, I could, Clint, if you want to filibuster, I can go get this data and we can see where it's at now. But I don't expect this much better based on what he's done the last few games. So it's
No.
scary, guys. It's scary.
I, and part of me is just looking at it from a technicals perspective, because for me, it always feels like Abreu is on his front foot a lot. Um, I feel like he's very vertical, and so so the way I look at hitting is you have your center, your spine, right, which is your middle, which is what the bat is going to rotate around, right, and so when you start to get in your front foot, you start to shorten the distance between ball and you. But not only that, you change plane in which the bat comes through the zone. So you could get a bat coming down and across, where you might see some of that kind of action on a sinker and stuff like that while he's hitting so far down on it. Is he extending the barrel through the zone by keeping it flat and level through? Well, it's really hard to do that if your spine angle's reversed and you're kind of pitched towards the pitcher. You create that motion here where I'm trying to do this the right way here, um, where your front shoulder, for me, I'm left-handed. For him, his left shoulder and his front foot are pinched together, working towards the pitcher. Well, from that point perspective, the bat's going to work a little bit downward. Whereas if they were a little bit more level, or even maybe a little cocked up, where the front shoulder's back, front foot is down, and they're kind of pushing against each other, creating space, the bat would work through the zone, maybe on an upward trajectory, or if not very level. I think he had the same issue last year, Larry. We kind of watched that a lot, how many groundouts he had and how it was, and it got better over time. But I think just that, and factoring in a whole nother year, the age, and just I guess how vulnerable he's getting to all these pitches, it's just it's just creating a really big hole in that lineup, and it's kind of evident because they've really. I mean, he went from fifth to eighth, and there's really nowhere else you
Yeah.
can put him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, basically, they just have, that's what the Astros have done. They basically have hidden them at batting eighth, and I guess one of the things I asked this fan base is like, okay, I know you're mad, but like, what do you want the Astros to do? Like, what?
Yeah,
Everybody seems to be like really upset with Espada related to Abreu, and I'm like, well, what is Espada doing wrong with him, right? Because he's literally doing the things I would want him to do. He's
yeah,
he's he's being extremely careful about not putting him up against bad matchups. And if you were a moneymaker member, you would see that. He's like the days he's sitting, he has almost no chance of success. And so I mean, what should he do? I mean, you can say, well, they should cut him. Like, well, that's
Doesn't
why we start with the last year's data, right? Just like
yeah.
they're hoping that whatever they figured out last year, they can figure out again this year, right?
And so one thing I just want to note, like, Brandon is talking about this could be approach issue. Is he cheating on off speed curveball? I actually think it's the opposite. I think he's cheating on fastball, and it's putting him in a really bad position to tackle off speed pitches. And a lot of my reasoning, the reason why I go that route is usually fastball, you're timing to get your front foot down fast so you can get the barrel out in front of your body to square that pitch up and eventually pull it to your pull side for power. In my opinion, if he's cheating on that and they're throwing it off speed, he has to wait. So the weight gets loaded and dispersed all to that front side. I mean, the bat has nothing to do but just roll it over, throw it down in the ground, and get those negative launch angles that you kind of see. Sorry, I know I kind of spearheaded that
No,
and
I
kind of
mean,
took,
Clint, that's a ClintTheScout question, right?
yeah,
But I he's last year I was convinced based on his slider and curveball data and the off speed data that he was not picking up and he was just guessing everything was a fastball. And and maybe this year he's guessing everything's a slider. I don't know.
yeah.
Which do you think he's guessing everything's a slider or curveball? Is that basically what you said, Clint?
I think he's I think he's speeding himself up for fastball, and it's putting him in a really bad spot to
Okay.
adjust to
So
off
it's the
speed.
same thing. He's guessing everything's fastball, and then we can't
Yeah,
see it, and then it starts breaking on him. Then he's completely out of body.
yeah,
This
and
is the actual data as of now, and there's nothing in this data that would make you feel any better except every X woven number except slurs has gotten Cutters is still not Cutters is not even as good as they were. Like, look at this data, guys. There's every single pitch that's my problem. As last year early on, I could look at the four seam fastballs and all the fastball category, and I could say at least he's hitting fastballs. And that's why I was like, well, he's guessing everything's a fastball. If he's guessing everything's a fastball, he's still not hitting them.
that's the concern. That's where the big
That's the
concern comes in.
concern.
Yeah,
That's what's different between this year and last year. And that's what we have to figure out. Like, can they fix that? And guys, what I will say, you can't, like, okay, why don't they just cut them, Larry? Well, they owe him $39 more million, right? So they're not like,
yeah.
and they can't. Like, why don't they send him to AAA? Well, you can't send the veteran to AAA unless he is wanting to go work on something. So there's all they can do is move him to the bench, right? Well, the other guy in the bench that would come in is Singleton. Now Singleton's actually, maybe you can make an argument, right? Well, let me say it this way: Singleton is starting to approach Maldi territory as far as production. So okay, we're just gonna have Singleton bat eighth, and Jose Abreu is a right-handed pinch hitter, a $19.5 million pinch hitter. I mean, I don't know. There's really what I would say to the fan base is I think that they are, like I said, the thing that's different in this data this year and previous years or last year is the fastball data is terrible. And the fastball data was actually pretty good last year, even when he was bad. And of course, when everything got better, I mean, guys, after he came back from the the IL time, he was really actually really good, and
He
he had a
was.
919 OPS in the postseason, right? So that, as bad as Jose Abreu was, he's not the reason they didn't go to the World Series. He helped carry them in the postseason. So I. I mean, I think they're hoping. I mean, the Chicago White Sox fans will tell you that he's always been a slow starter. I haven't gone back to previous seasons, like in previous good seasons. Was he this bad early? I know what it was last year because I tracked it like a hawk. Right, I was watching like what's going on with this guy. Why can't he get any better? Clint, if we missed any point, I mean, I guess do we talk about what do we do with them? I mean, I
No,
just kind of
I,
said what I
I,
do with them.
I think I mean, it's like having a. I guess in my stance, kind of like having a 17 in blackjack. You kind of just have to hold and wait to see what happens because it's not gonna. You're not gonna will it into existence with him right now. You're gonna have to let him find it, and unless he goes on the IL, you're just waiting. I mean,
Right. I mean,
and you
that's
can't cut
probably
him.
the most productive thing they could do is put him on
Yeah.
the IL, and then bring Loperfido up and hope Loperfido
See if they
doesn't
catch
strike
lightning in
out
a
at
bottle. Yeah.
doesn't strike out 45% of the time. He's striking out like 38 last time I looked in
Yeah.
AAA. So I'm not sure how good that's going to translate. I'm not sure. I mean, I think John Singleton. They're trying to use John Singleton in the role that he was meant to be used for as a right-handed pinch hitter and like occasional once or twice a week starter versus a really tough right-handed pitcher for Jose Abreu to handle. And
Yeah.
if a pitcher's got mainly curveball, slider, I'd send John Singleton into the game to face that
Mhm.
starting pitcher. So I don't know, guys. Does that, Brandon? That makes sense. That's I should have had that light on the whole time, guys. That's the Jose Abreu of it all. So
Yeah.
all
And
right,
and I think we're both on the consensus of we're just it's a wait and see, put it on the shelf maybe. If not, we're just gonna ride this bad boy out.
yeah, yeah. But
And
I
so
guess what I will tell the fan base, I mean that probably pisses some off in the fan base. I would say, guys, when we say ride out, I don't like if it's this way in mid June. I don't. I think something big's going to happen. I think
yeah.
Loperfido's. I think Loperfido will be here in mid June. Well, okay, unless Jose Abreu and John Singleton start playing like near all stars. I believe Loperfido will be here and he will be replacing. Well, if
Oh,
Singleton's not more productive, he will be gone and Loperfido will be in.
and what's gonna drive that? And I think this is everybody go pay attention to Sugarland and see where Lo Profito starts playing majority of his games. Will you
Right,
start seeing an uptick in his first base? His opportunities at first base. If it continues to tick up as we get through April and May, that's going to be the huge trigger there because then that
right,
lets the us know the organization is looking at this really hard and with intent to make a change if necessary.
right. It's not real hard to. I mean, I think Dana Brown is pretty transparent, guys, and I think he basically gave you a whitewash version of what Clint and I just told you. So that's what's going to happen. All right, so should we turn to maybe? Well, I don't know if after it's started if it's even a happier subject, but uh,
I
let's talk about
I
let's talk about Spencer Arrighetti.
Yeah, so let's talk about Spencer Arrighetti. Maybe not so much about who he is. We'll kind of touch on a little bit why he was called up for yesterday's start, and whether we're going to see him staying, with the big league ball club, for the foreseeable future, if not the rest of the season. And furthermore, so Larry, I'm going to let you kick it off with what we got about him, and then we can talk more about where we kind of see him long term fitting into the staff for the rest of the season.
Yeah, let me. I'm sorry, Clint. I did want to show these graphs, and this is the Abreu of it.
Oh, okay.
Let me just leave you with these graphs about Abreu. Okay, so these are Abreu's career since 2018, and you can see, guys, this is a massive drop off in exit velocity, massive drop off in pull rate, massive drop off in hard hit rate. These are actually 2-year trends for all three of those. Look at the
Mm.
launch angle. I mean, something's if those numbers don't change, something's drastically wrong. All right, let's talk about Spencer. All right, so number one, what Clint and I talked about, one of the points I wanted to make about Spencer Arrighetti, and like I didn't write an article for the other guys that the Astros brought up. Why is that? Well, Spencer Arrighetti is different than those guys. I believe that the other guys that the Astros have brought up, and we can talk about it, like when they brought up Wander Cerro, Blair Henley, and Miguel Diaz, right? Miguel Diaz has already been DFA'd and he's chosen free agency, right? And Wander Cerro and Blair Henley were there, here for a day and they're back, right? Like, boom, you hear a
Mhm.
couple innings and hold that thought because Clint, I have a little surprise for you later,
Yeah.
right? So these guys are just making an appearance and go. I do not think Spencer Arrighetti is coming here to be turned around in a day or two. I think Spencer Arrighetti is here to stay. Um, and the reason for that is he's the number three prospect in the Astros system, right? And I literally just gave you the the MLB pipeline description. He's an overall 50 prospect score guy. Really good slider, good curveball, good fastball, not so good changeup, and some control issues, right? He is. Here's a little fun fact: Spencer Arrighetti was born in the 21st century. Born on January 2nd,
Mhm.
2000. He's the first 21st century player, guys. He's all. He's a 2000 baby. Um, that's what I thought was. I thought that being the old man, I thought that was amusing. Here's his fan grades. I guess these are the 23 report. So they have him a little lower future value. Team rank 11. I don't know that Fangraphs have done a 2024 update. So I think Fangraphs was kind of saying we're not as committed. Well, that may be my opinion about their data set. They don't I don't think they're as focused on the prospect side of it as all. All right, so here's Spencer Arrighetti from AAA last year. And you may look at this data and say 4.63 ERA and 5.36 FIP. Larry, that's not very good. What are we excited about? All right, well, guys, this table, and I don't really need anybody. I didn't really put that in there so you would like try to find all your players. The Astros are the orange players here. Just this is the Pacific Coast League pitchers that started 5 games or more, and they had 60 innings or more. There's 50 of them. Spencer Arrighetti's right here at number 15th on this list, sorted by FIP, which was the worst of these two. The average ERA last year in the Pacific Coast League was 5.69. So you have to understand the context of any of these stats you get from the Pacific Coast League pitchers. Um, and I think Sugarland has a. I was trying to find the Sugarland um, ballpark score. I don't have a Baseball America um, subscription that gives me that. So if anyone wants to shoot that to me, go ahead. It's ballpark factor, but because there's in an article that they have, but I didn't have access to it. So um, but just for a comparison, Blanco is the guy right here. He's number 10 on this list, and we're pretty excited about Blanco right now. Arrighetti's 10th on the list when it's sorted by ERA, and Blanco is second. So kind of get a little context related to Arrighetti and Blanco, how they compare from the last year. Here's his career data, just so you can see. He's basically I put the league average ERAs in there, so you can see 5.69. He's better, and he's better than the 4.79 in Double A last year. And so he started out really well in his first 2 starts. Now, again, our sample sizes are real small, so you can't really look at that. All right, Arrighetti was projected to be a 4.88 FIP, 5.71 ERA pitcher, but remember, he's been better in every stop in the minor leagues on the way here. So I don't know. I mean, to me, I was pretty excited about Arrighetti, and let's hope this disease of terrible starts. I mean, he gave us 3 innings, gave up 7 runs. I guess relative to Hunter Brown, that's Cy Young like, but that's this pitching staff needs some help, and this will transition to that topic, Clint. But that's Arrighetti. Clint, this article was almost like, man, I just need Clint the Scout's take on Arrighetti here. So what are you seeing when you watch Arrighetti
Hey,
pitch?
I'm gonna. I think that the yesterday's game, it's just kind of like an omission. It's like the guy got called up. It's a big spot for him. It's not, he's not at home. He pitched to Katy in Texas, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a spur of the moment type thing. Because I don't know, maybe he knew he was coming out, maybe not, but really just the fact that the Astros needed innings and they needed someone who could give it to him. Number one, and number two, just not being at home. That's a big spot on the road. And give credit where credit's due. This Kansas City Royals team is not bad. They have better than average players. They're getting better. And so let's do that. I've always I, I always kind of grain of salt type thing because a lot of these guys where they're drafted and stuff like that kind of dictates what you can kind of see. He's probably exceeded a ton of expectations. It's just clear because he's come to the system this fast and he's already on the roster. But I think that there's reason for us to be excited, and there might be even more. There's reason for us to believe more in him maybe than JP France and a few other guys, just because his slider
Yeah.
profiles really well. And if he can find a way to use that pitch to his advantage, which I know he will, but right now you kind of have to just take in mind as well, he's kind of a one-dimensional guy. He's very much fastball slider. I'm sure Josh Miller and them, the pitching staff, are gonna be like, we have got to work on that third and fourth pitch. We've got to start to find ways to really get you dialed in, to create another element to get hitters off balance. So I would do
Right.
that. And sorry, it's sixth round, not seventh round. Sorry, I missed that one.
No,
Um,
that's all right.
but I you know we're gonna talk about this here in a little bit. I think we just get a really pretty natural thrower and someone who's going to be able to pitch at a relatively high level day in and day out. But it's like you alluded to in the article, Larry. Give him grace when it's needed and let him work through some of the nerves and some of the stuff that's going to come about this season, because it's a big spot. It's a big spot to be thrown into the rotation and the pitching staff of a what people were considering as a world championship contending team right off the bat.
Right. Right. And so if we had normal results where we started the show at, right? We're not even
Mm.
having normal results to what we should have. And we if we had normal, that is actually I missed the lead on that whole section. Give me, where is it? That data's right. I want to quote it correctly. All right, so here's the run differential. You could put it in the old Pythagorean theorem, right? So the
Mhm.
Astros should have won 5 games right now in the 14 games that they've played, and they've won. They won 3 or 4. I mean, it's so bad. I don't even like even thinking about it. What, they won 4, right? Yeah, they're four and
Yeah, they're
ten.
4-10. Yep.
So they haven't even gotten the results that their scored run Pythagorean theorem says they should have had. The ex-WOBA data statistics, if they actually had the runs that the ex-WOBA data predicts they would have had, they should have won 8 games. If this team was 8-6 and that game yesterday happened, I think we're have a lot more grace with Spencer Arrighetti. And I would just say,
Mhm.
pretend for a minute that the team is 8-6, and at least treat Arrighetti that way. If you want to treat Jose Abreu like they're 4-10, okay, but treat Spencer Arrighetti like he's an important part of a team that's going to be challenging. The good thing is the rest of the division sucks too, so we're not falling way out of the lead, out of the division race. So
And
there's
in Arrighetti's defense, he's been in the league 2 days. Abreu's
correct.
been in the league for at least
What,
15
14
years.
years? Yeah, something like that.
So if you're gonna throw a little shade, I think it's okay to throw shade at the 15-year veteran at this point.
I protect my 26 and under Astros pretty harshly. You want to go after the 35 and over crowd? I'm not here to protect those guys. They're old enough to protect themselves. I protect my boys. So let's transition. So, like, why am I so sure that Spencer Arrighetti's got to stay? Well, number one, we got massive amounts of injuries. Right, look at all the pitchers that are. These are all the starting pitchers that are injured right now. I know that a couple of them are we got Verlander in AAA. Maybe he's going to make two more starts, right, and it'll get better. And we got I don't know if any of these relief pitchers are. I know Graveman's gone for the year. I know Murphy is Murphy doing pitching already? Is he already? He was
I
throwing
thought he
off the
was
mound,
throwing
right?
and doing. I think he was doing
Yeah.
activities. I think they were talking like a June
Okay. So yeah,
potential comeback.
I guess the greater point is like we got Verlander and maybe Garcia coming, you know, Mayish or Verlander maybe a little bit
Yeah.
before. The problem
So
is,
Can I just say one thing? If we go back to that list of those guys right there, those starting pitchers with injuries,
yeah,
um, let's not discount the fact Fromber right off the bat. If this is something that lingers long term, that's 200 innings a season that the
yeah,
Astros have had for the past couple of years. That's gone. Where
right,
do they make that up? But you're also looking at a list of guys. Luis Garcia is going to be 28, McCullers 31, Fromber 31, or Keedy going to be 29. There's some youth in that rotation that's there that they could tap into potentially, and I think that alluded to what you and I talked about when we before the season started. Is this should get better as the season goes on, and they should be a better team after the All-Star break. But not to
right.
get too thrown off the
No,
topic, but I think it's just important to look at how many innings are sitting there on the IL with this pitching staff right
right.
now. It's substantial.
It's a lot. It's a lot and a lot. And I will tell folks that the Astros are not the only team that's suffering from major pitching injuries right now, and there's a lot of. I'm actually glad to see the discourse is turning from just it's all the pitch clock to actually questioning the way pitching is being done with high velocity and high spin rates simultaneously. I mean, Clint, I
You
wrote the
know,
article blaming sliders, and then
well, it's interesting. So I listened to Verlander talk about it. They interviewed him at Sugarland after that start. But I listened to, one other thing Tyler Glass now brought it up is the
that's
elimination of sticky stuff.
stuff, right?
And so pronating those muscles and those ligaments to hold the ball tighter to generate the spin. It's I mean, how often do you move something? Do you grip something as tight as you can and then exert as much force as you can through it? It's they're Major League Baseball is I think we have to look at it this way. Major League Baseball is a business, and when they're a business, the health and the health of the players is not going to always be the top priority here. And what we've noticed with the changes to the ball, the changes of sticky stuff, how the power pitching is, Tommy John surgery is just becoming a normal thing.
Yeah,
Like it's just like you're going to hit it, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when and how long are you going to be out. It's kind of normal. It's like it's a big thing, but I always compare it. It's a business. They're looking at it from a business perspective, and that's why you have a players association and everything else. And I know that's kind of a bit of a tangent, but I just always think it's important for people to know like these players are a part of a product that MLB puts on the field. They're not going to look at it the same way. So when people are, I guess it's always interesting because it's like in order to maintain the integrity of the game, we got to put the players' health I guess at the detriment of that. And so it's kind of
well,
a
yeah. I mean, it's a double edged sword because they
yeah,
don't major league teams don't want these players to be injured like they are
no.
either, right? So it's very interesting. So, guys, let's talk about a topic that everybody will be talking about in 20 hours or 22 hours. This bullpen is gassed after the starts we've had this week. Look at this bullpen usage. These are the number of pitches thrown. Let's admit that tomorrow we have Josh Hader and Ryan Presley ready to go. Okay. Do we pitch Ryan Abreu tomorrow? Maybe. He pitched 19 pitches today. I'm sure they didn't really want him to have pitched that many pitches. We got Rafael Montero, 28 pitches today. I I mean, Rafael Montero bounces back, but Seth Martinez pitched 25 2 days after he pitched 32. I don't think he's available. Taylor Scott pitched 3 and then 31 today. He's not available. Parker Muchinski pitched 54 2 days ago. I don't think he's available. Brandon Belak pitched 50 2 days ago. I don't think he's available. So, two guys I know are available. One guy probably is available, but they would stretch to use him. But he's been like as wildly ineffective as some of the hitting has been, and that's Abreu. I I'm not sure any of the other relief pitchers are available tomorrow. Now, guys, I've been running errands all day. I had a doctor's appointment. I watched the game. I don't know what's been said after the game, Clint. I don't know if you do,
I don't. I was
but
at work and everything else, and I kind of just
I
caught up with a lot of
believe
this.
we're going to get a call up. Okay. There are two guys on this staff. Well, Wander Suero went down on the 10th. He's not, you can't call him back unless there's an injury. Blair Henley went down on the 9th. You can't call him back unless there's an injury. So, unless they create an injury of one of these guys, those two guys aren't coming back. Of the guys that are on the staff right this minute, or unless there's been something that's happened before we went to start the show, an hour and 15 minutes ago, the only two players that can go down are Seth Martinez and Parker Muchinski. You know, I'm not, and once they go down, they got to stay down for 10 days unless there's an injury. I'm assuming they send Parker Muchinski back down because I don't know when, I mean, if it's 54 pitches, I don't know what he pitched in AAA before he got here, but like, given between those two, I think they're going to send Parker Muchinski down. Clint, you and I said it. This fan base, this is 1 hour and 17 minutes into the show. Clint, the scout, Larry, the GM, are going to make a bold prediction about who shows up in Houston at Minute Maid Park tomorrow. Clint, do you want to tell the people?
I don't. I I know who I think it's gonna be, but I don't. I'm probably drawing a blank on the name that we came to. I think we're gonna see
Well,
Forrest Whitley. I think that's who we're gonna
yes.
see.
I think we're going to see Forrest Whitley, folks. I
Yeah,
think we're going to see Forrest Whitley tomorrow. And I think he's going to be given the same treatment Parker Muchinski essentially was given. Right. And the reason I think it's going to be Forrest Whitley is he pitched 24 pitches on the 10th. And he has the capability to give them 40-ish, 50-ish pitches if they have to use it. I'm not saying they're going to be good. I'm not saying there's anything in Forrest Whitley's minor league career the last 4 or 5 years that says he should be at AAA or should be in the major leagues. I'm just saying, if you look at the roster resource page and the players that are on the 40-man roster, unless they want to go DFA somebody else, like if they want to go DFA Wander Suero or Blair Henley, I guess they could do that. And then they got other options they could call up. But if they're bringing up a 40-man player, it's either going to be Forrest Whitley or Dylan Coleman. And I don't see any reason why it might as well be Forrest Whitley. That's
I will finally get what I've waited for all these years, and that's Forrest Whitley pitching for the Astros.
it'll either work or it won't work.
And we're gonna throw
Uh,
it against the wall and hope it sticks.
that's right. Here's Dylan Coleman's Fangraphs page. Yeah, dude has pitched one start. It probably was
Yeah.
an opener role in Kansas City,
And
and
guys,
we
I
know
just,
Forrest Whitley can start.
yeah, and just a little background on Forrest Whitley, former first round pick. He pitched here in Alamo Heights here in San Antonio. He came out as one of the top prospects in baseball. Started out this way. Injuries have plagued him. Had Tommy John. Has been through a lot, and I think the Astros, and Larry, you correct me when I get wrong on this because I'm pretty sure that they're at the end of the ropes with this contract
Yeah,
in terms of where they can put him, and he needs to be on the roster and potentially move up, or he can. I think free agencies
right.
on the break for him
He's
as
getting
well.
he's getting a bonus option year this year. They
Yeah,
added an option year with, and we don't want to get
yeah,
into the option rules of why they were able to do that. Had to do with being injured all those times and all that. But yeah, he got this is the. I mean, he either play him or the Astros. This is the situation. There's almost no, well, there's no downside other than you lose another game. Okay, but um, if if you're gonna bring Forrest Whitley in for 10 days, you bring him in for 10 days and see what happens. And maybe by then JV's ready. I don't, and then then Forrest Whitley goes back, JV goes into the rotation, and then
or
one of
someone
the
else goes
starters
back.
comes up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess one of the things that Clint and I have talked about before this, guys, I know that we haven't, as Astros fans, had to. We dealt with this a little bit last year. We dealt with it. Someone said on Twitter the other day, it feels like 2020 with the pitching staff. That's very, very accurate. If we had a 162 game year in 2020, it would have. We brought guys in, out. You know, they were here for 2 weeks. And some of that had to do with COVID. There were expanded rosters because of the COVID year, and you just had pitchers trying. We had, I don't remember, we had like 7 or 8 rookie pitchers that pitched that year. Guys, that it's a pretty accurate description.
yeah,
Like, yeah, they're like Clint said, throwing mud against the wall and see what sticks. And that's not comfortable. That's not where we've been with the pitching staff. That's not where we will be with the pitching staff. If any of these, when we get 3 or 4 of these guys healthy, it it won't be this way. But if Fromberg never gets healthy this year, it may be this way because Clint's right. I mean, for all the folks that considered, including me, who wrote an article like, could you consider trading Fromber Valdez? You're going to lose a lot of innings eater that Fromber Valdez has been. So, yeah, I just say breaking news. The last bold prediction is that Forrest Whitley comes to the major leagues tomorrow because the Astros need somebody that can pitch because they have a bullpen that is so massively depleted
and
with
guys,
no
it's
other option.
it's it's one of those things where they've had one off day in 20 games. It's pretty substantial, but at the same time, like this is a war of attrition right now for them with the injuries and everything else. So we're just seeing the culmination of that just kind of hit us all really hard, really fast. And another thing I'll allude to, Larry, I think it's also just part of it. Like this is the, I guess this is the hit that the farm system and their stuff has taken over the years with everything that they've done, with trades and preparing for what to come. I mean, kind of a poor culmination of injuries with pitchers all at the same time, but also just kind of, I think it highlights a little bit of the weaknesses in the farm system right now because you only really have a handful of
Right,
guys that you're looking at as big league potential in the next year or so, and
right.
one of them's already on the roster to stay. So it's it's kind of it's interesting, and it's gonna be wild, and it's gonna be uncomfortable for a lot of fans.
I mean, if you don't think it's Forrest Whitley, then who do you think it is, right? It could be Colton Gordon. It could be Mitzi Tamares. It could be Red Kukuba. I would be willing to hear any of those. They could retread Joel Kuhnel again, but I mean, like if you ask me, like who would you rather have here tomorrow, Joel Kuhnel or Forrest Whitley? Joe
Go
Kuhnel
with
might be
Forrest Whitley.
pitching great. I want Forrest Whitley because they have to make a decision related to Forrest Whitley. They have to make a decision whether to keep him on the 40-man roster. He's going to be in an MLB club next year, or he will be DFA'd and passed through waivers somewhere. If the Astros put Forrest Whitley on waivers at any point this year, he will be picked up by a team that is, not necessarily trying to win the World Series and be given innings to see if he can figure it out. And
Yep.
so I just say there's like let's just hope we get a good start tomorrow. We don't have to worry about a long reliever and we just get to the sixth inning. JP France gets us six. Then we go top three in the bullpen, goes through the end of the game, and we win. You know, that's the best case scenario. But you got to have
Yeah.
somebody in the bullpen ready to pitch the third, fourth, fifth, sixth inning. And you have to.
Hmm.
All right, Clint. That is our Astro. What do we call it, Clint?
Astros weekly
Astros
recap.
recap. I mean that brings you guys all the major huge topics and maybe some you weren't even thinking about, right? But that's the Astros weekly recap. The plan for Clint and I is we're going to do this this is a Thursday night. Mark it down 8:30 Thursday night. Spend the night, maybe get a drink and talk some Astros baseball with us. We are going to be, it's me, so you're going to get a lot of data. That's all. It'll be a data driven analysis, objective analysis as
Well,
we talk about
That
these
and
things.
that and the other thing is like, guys, I know we've been at this for almost 90 minutes, but it's for me, 90 minutes doesn't even feel like enough time to talk about all the things that we really see and what's going on. But we picked the three or four biggest things that fans really need to know right off the bat so that you can process what's happening. I mean, this team's 4-10. We were not expecting this. Well, some fans were not expecting this. I don't want to say all of them were not expecting it, but it's just important that you'll have a little. I guess can we get a little grace too for the amount of time we spent talking about it? But at least it's good data
Yeah.
and it's worth listening to. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, guys, let's just end with a couple plugs. So, Clint, do you want to plug your sites, or do you want to
Uh,
direct people
guys,
to your stuff?
I'm obviously you can follow me on X. I keep saying Twitter, but on X at Clint the Scout. Clint the Scout. I contribute to Larry's site. I tweet about the Astros. I'm always talking about it. You can find me on YouTube. You'll find these videos here. Find these videos there. But I am always interested in hearing what folks have to say and talking about it and trying my best to tweet during games things I see or stuff like that. But I really like to save stuff for these videos because I think that's when it's most prevalent. Whenever I have Larry and his data, and then the talking and the back and forth, I think it just really adds to what we're seeing daily. So, give me a follow. But obviously, you know, go to the website and look up what's there. And Larry's got tons of content every day. And then, you've got different, and you have different, you know, different tiers that you can pay into the moneymaker content, the premium content. It all pays off. I think it's a kind of a no-brainer in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of places you can go and put that data to use and on the internet and make you some cash while you're at it and support the site, because really that's what it all comes down to is Larry is turning a big passion into something that has outreach for everybody and benefit for everybody. So please make sure that you get out there and support it any way you can. Click, sharing it, subscribing, all that. Nothing hurts at this point.
Yeah. So, three basic ways you can help the Larry the GM website grow or our influence, guys. Well, maybe four. I mean, the channel. you guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel, guys. I would love to get the channel up to 1,000 people or more, and we can actually get some, turn it into a little bit of a money making venture on the channel. But to do that, so what we're telling you is we're going to be doing this on a weekly basis on Thursday nights. It's typically an off night. It'll be different content. Hey, if you're watching some other show during this period of time, can come back to us later. I think the content that we will be doing will not be, I don't think it's really like critical time based content. It's more philosophical content. So like that's on the YouTube side. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment on the videos, bring other attention, help the YouTube algorithm to help. On the website, you can, like Clint was saying, you can subscribe to 3 different levels. Basic level will give you a lot of the articles are basic level articles. For every series, I'm doing a premium level matchup analysis where I provide tables that give you XWOBA data of pitchers versus the batters and on both sides. So you can get like, okay, I'm gonna know that this guy's gonna be good versus this guy's pitches. So actually, it's pitchers, what they're good at throwing and how often they throw that, and those XWOBA data. And then it's the batters, how good they're versus these kinds of pitches and how often they faced them. Okay, then that data on a daily basis is getting cross-referenced into the magic of the Larry the GM mind and built into a daily XWOBA matchup that the money makers get. And that money maker, then the first 7 that we produced are out there. You can look at them, and those money maker matchups give you a daily prediction of who's going to do well today. Did really well with the Royals today. Okay, I guess I could have picked any Royal and they would have done well. But so some days are better than others. But what I do is I show you on the Bovada website where the odds are. And so where it's legal for you to do so, you could literally take the Larry the GM content and go place some wagers down there. No guarantees of results, but that's what the money makers get on a daily basis. Today was the first day because I was at a doctor's appointment. I could not do a video because of the day game. But I also give them a video every day that gives them like a 3 to 5 minute, like, boom, here's your picks, here's why, here's what you should do. But that's what content. We do some Longhorn stuff as well, guys. But that's the website. In addition to that, if you prefer, you can follow the links to the Patreon site. You can become a Patreon member. Patreons get articles before the website. Sometimes it's a minute before the website. Sometimes it's hours or a day before the website. So most of the time it's pretty short right now. And if you just feel like, damn, this guy really works hard, and I don't know what else. I don't even need to subscribe. I just want to throw money at him. You can click the PayPal link and throw money at me. I won't turn you down. So there's the ways to help the Larry the GM website, help us grow, help us, do some more marketing type of things, caps and those sort of things. That's what we're thinking about on the Larry the GM website. And like Clint said, we got Clint back. We've written an article in the last couple of weeks. We're gonna pressure him to do more because when Clint the Scout writes a Clint the Scout article, it's gold. So we got Clint putting some content in the
So
Larry the GM website. You should love it every time he does it.
so I'll have some pitching updates on the article I put out last week, or maybe no, it would have been last week about pitch counts and what we're seeing with that. I kind of give, I think the pitching staff is kind of an interesting spot. Obviously, we're going to be bouncing between a ton. So as I compile data and I start to notice things, definitely be pushing more articles out and seeing that. But I've had some really, I think these conversations spur ideas for what we can write and what we can talk about. So guys, it's really. it's fun to come out here and do this with Larry, and it's a joy to put passion and everything else into perspective and share it with you guys. So if you can't think of anything to comment on the video, just put X Woba. That's
Yeah.
that's fine as well. Anything to drive that is perfect. So,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
what we will do today, guys, maybe I'll publish it in the morning, but we will have an article that'll have the video, and then you'll have all the tables I show in the video, and I'm not even gonna put any words. The video is going to be the words, right? So, damn, finally I don't have to read everything that Larry writes. So you'll just have the video and all the charts, and you can figure it out from yourself from with the video and the charts in there. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. But thanks, guys, for joining in. I hope we had a pretty decent crew, and thanks, guys, for looking at us. Thanks, guys, and we
yep.
will talk to you next week.